This is an SM Media production. Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2023. I'm Scott McPike. It is an absolute pleasure to be your host as always, and it is always a pleasure to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin. Calum, it's always a pleasure. How are we?
Yeah, all good here. Trying to snap out of a losing run before Cheltenham though, so we try to do that in the interim while all the horses, all the main kind of players have definitely had their runs now, haven't they? So they'll all be waiting for the Cheltenham Festival, and so are we.
Yeah, obviously the big highlight from the weekend was obviously Shishkin. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, definitely. Magnificent training performance and getting a horse back that looked pretty much gone in his last two runs with these various bone issues and wind issues, and absolute fair play to corrections for getting back. And yeah, obviously I know Alaho was order for the Ryanair all the time. Now he's out. You know, Shishkin's stepped into that breach. He looks, if he replicates that, he's going to win, isn't he? It's just keeping him sound and backing that up. It's really the only question mark against him.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into Shishkin a bit more later in the show. We did have some fan questions. We will start with the one that everybody's talking about, and we'd be remiss not to talk about it as well. What are your thoughts on the new whip rules and the bans being handed out, Calum? We could probably spend a whole show on this, but again, it's just there's a lot really to unpack, and you've done a really good job writing about it in the Daily Mail. What do you think of it? What do you think the repercussions are going to be?
Well, 19 jockeys for over 20 offences is quite big for the first kind of breach year. It's a whip committee that's devised this for a long time. They've made concessions to the jockeys slightly in terms of technique. As coming back, lower the strikes down, so down to 7-8. That's a bit tricky. The concern is that the heat of the moment, that when jockeys are driving finish and they'll get caught out by it, and they'll kind of lose all kind of sense of it. And Lorcan Williams was the biggest one, getting 18 days for two breaches. Partly they wrote to him quite often. They've had 4 weeks trying to bed this in. They're starting to adapt a little bit, but there might need to be a bit more compromise here, because to have all these jockeys, and the way it's done now, it's not done by race day stewards on the day as if, it's backlog. You're going to get a raft of these all at the same time, and they'll all be suspended at the same time, which is a bit concerning if we've got a lot of meetings and not enough jockeys to ride out. So, yeah, I'll have to really see how it plays out, but it's a bit concerning.
Do you think as well? Obviously, like my takeaway from it is that this is being done obviously to satisfy the critics. I don't think we're all in any disagreement that there needs to be rules in place, but my argument would be for it is that the bans appear to be quite excessive.
Yeah, well, it was more excessive beforehand, because like Sean Bowen was getting I think like over like 60 days for it, with the new rules coming in. And for some jockeys, it's really hard to strike the horse in the correct spot if they don't go above shoulder height to get all the way back. Mm-hmm. That's some of their concerns, particularly in national hunt racing, where you're dealing with bigger thoroughbreds. It's going to be harder to get further back there. It's also tricking the flat because you'll be going faster, so it's going to be quite hard to work out there. So the timing of these rules coming in, just 3-4 weeks before Cheltenham is far from ideal as well. You'll have the Irish coming over that'll have to adapt to this for just these 4 days, or for the small day coming in, and then they'll have knock-on effects to other spring festivals like Aintree and stuff. But it's a really weird situation. I think inside racing circles, the whip isn't that much of a contentious issue. It's been kind of brought in for like perception purposes, and I think the BHA really do have a needless bee in their bonnet over this. And by the time they put numbers on it, they're going to limit it, and they are kind of pandering to people that let's be honest, are never really going to be interested in the sport.
Yeah.
Probably dislike it at best and want it banned at worst. So I don't really see why the head of the BHA is kind of pandering to these people rather than kind of focusing on the plenty of issues that the sport has.
Yep, absolutely. We'll move on to the next question. What was your favourite memory of Tom Scudamore as a jockey? Obviously, Tom Scudamore retired at the weekend. Quite surprisingly, actually. I didn't see it coming that time of the year. He's been on a lot of horses. What would you say was your favourite Tom Scudamore memory?
Any time he was in Thistlecrack was terrific, particularly in the World Hurdle when he won even money shot, because there was a lot of pressure coming into him that day. He wasn't getting the biggest rides in the world on big horses, but he never really missed a beat in Thistlecrack. He was magnificent in that World Hurdle. So yeah, even money favourite. I think that horse is definitely the outstanding one, and he said that in time gone by as well on media rounds. I do think he's probably a really good pundit as well. Pretty insightful, a bit of fresh air there that shakes things up. So yeah, no, he's definitely a top class rider, and another one that's got out his own terms in jump racing, which is pretty difficult to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Thistlecrack would probably be the one as well. That King George, I still remember the jump where he just leaped over the fence didn't touch it. Just a magnificent horse. Two that stand out. I know I lost a wee bit in this at the time, but the ride they gave Western Warhorse to beat Champagne Fever in that Arco, it still hurts me watching it because Champagne Fever was my banker of the festival that year, but just a magnificent ride. And he was the jockey on one of my favourite horses, Grand Cru. Brilliant horse. Brilliant hurdler. I remember the big showdown with Big Bucks, and then obviously as a chaser, went to the Court of Star and absolutely smashed up. Should have won. Went in as a sort of banker as well for the RSA. Was beaten by Bobsworth, who went on and won a Gold Cup. But tremendous jockey. Final question. Can we each give 2 selections for a lucky 15 each way for the festival? Do you want to start or will I start?
I'll throw in one first. Well, I like Magical Zoe for the Mares Novices Hurdle. I think she's pretty rock solid each way. Henry de Bromhead's updating her was positive. Just going they're fresh and she's going to improve. So yeah, it was what I wanted to see. So I'll stick in about 10-1.
10-1. My first one is going to be in the Stairs Hurdle. I think Paisley Park 14-1 each way. It's a big price. I know he's bombed out in the Cleve, but he's prone to do that. I mean, you look back at Paisley Park, and he's always had a bad race somewhere. Last year was a perfect example. He came from nowhere to finish third. He's capable of that, and I think 14-1 each way is big on
him. Reasonable enough. I'll add in Ting Late in the Grand Annual at 25-1 because I think that's going to go quite soon. Again, just another positive stable update from Paul Nichols, thinking the way I was that this horse is just better fresh keeping for it. He's going to go there. So yeah, him at 25 for a bit of a Hail Mary one.
Yeah, and my final one is going to be in the bumper. I still think Fact to File is quite big at 10-1. I know it's not a brilliant bumper. I know there's maybe a couple that could be freaks down the line, but that I think Fact to File, if they hold him back, I don't know who's going to take the ride, but I think he could be a chance each way at 10-1. I think there's about 7 or 8 Willie Mullins horses in there that could be players. I think he's one of them. I'll get to the bumper later on because I want to ask your thoughts on a particular horse in that race and our Ante Post picks. But if you want to send a question in, please send it in the comments below or send it over our social media, and we'll move on to our recap for the week. Starting Thursday, a few horses to mention at 2 different tracks. We'll start at Sandown. You Wear It Well was a good winner of the Mares Novice Hurdle there, won by 7.5 lengths. Now 8-1 in places for the Mares Novices Hurdle. I thought this was a good performance, actually.
It was. The Gordon Elliott horse that came over deeply superficial shape that she needed a lot further than this. So she's going to beat them for pace. She has 3 entries. It's possible she could go to Ballymore, but I think they'd probably stick to their own sex here and go the Mares Novices Hurdle. She's an each way chance. I think there's stronger Irish representation here, but Love Envoy did win that race last year and followed up in the Mares Novices Hurdle, so she's not without a chance. It looked an open grade 2, grade 3 kind of contest beforehand. and she took it out in decent style. So it's just whether she can kind of take that step up into the Mares Novices hurdle. I think she's an each-way player, but I think Lucia is obviously still the one to beat there, and there's a couple of decent Irish types that might have just a bit more class about them.
We'll move into Stumptown, who was quite a good winner. Again, just a horse that keeps progressing, now up to 133. A lot of people seem to think he could be a Kim Muir horse for Gavin Cromwell. What do you think of him?
He's absolutely crashing the market now into 5-1. You can see why after a performance like that, because he's jumped a lot better there. It's a lot more focused and just stepping up and trip and kind of just get the experience in. And this has probably been mapped out because Connections did mention straight afterwards that the Kim Muir was definitely the plan. The trainer felt that he needed a bit more to just make sure to get in, even though it's pretty hard to get balted out now in a Kim Muir. But that will definitely get him in 133. It's just whether that performance was a bit out of the blue against his ornery body of work beforehand. But yeah, he's definitely the right favourite. I'd have him over Missile Incredible. He was a bit quirky, and giving him £12 would be pretty difficult. I think Your Own Story in second is a pretty good horse for Lucinda Russell down the line. He's not quite getting his act together, but he seems that he just wants constantly further. And I don't think there's a lot of 4 mile races for horses rated just under 120. I'm afraid for him. So. He might be better when the mud's flying a bit more. We've not really had a kind of really proper soft ground for him, to be honest. So, yes, Stumptown's definitely interesting. 5-1 though for a handicap this far out, a handicap chase like that is a bit short. I think there are each-way alternatives against him, but yeah, he has an obvious favourites chance.
Yeah, we'll move into Clonmel. An interesting race was obviously Monty Star beat a horse you tipped up for the Albert Bartlett at Hidden Valley Lake. Again, we thought this was going to be a bit of a weird race with Cobbett's Cross going out, but it turned into a really, really good race.
It did. The ground was a trouble, and it was a problem for Hidden Valley Lake. I think he had to go out, make his own running. That proved a bit tricky. And Monty Star, just outstayed them really, tracked him properly and picked up. Just related to Manila Indo, the winner, he's going to improve as well. In Valley Lake was giving away £9. The thirds, they're all going to be pretty decent staying chasers, I think, down the line. That's for sure. But I think the tactics went against Hidden Valley Lake, and the ground, I think, went against him as well. He was giving away £9. I think he might turn over the form, and he was drifted out to 10-1 before it, but he's now been clipped into 7s. So, yeah, while I'm disappointed because he obviously doesn't hold a class edge over the field here, he's still a big player in an open race, so along with 3-Car Bragg, who I particularly like, and it's shaping up to be a pretty competitive big field. Albert Bartlett, it's probably going to be 6-1 in the field, I'd imagine.
I would take all 3 of the first 3 in this race before I would pick Embassy Gardens.
Definitely, I think Embassy Gardens he might be one of the worst favourites of the week at the moment. I think one of them will at least be good enough to give him a challenge, and I don't think he's the strongest in a battle at the moment overall. He's won one maiden easily, and he's favourite for the Albert Bartlett. I know the nice guy did it, but I don't think he's at that level, and his resolution wasn't really great beforehand. I don't see it being much better now in this company.
We'll move into Friday in Kelso, finally a Scottish racetrack to mention for the first time in a while. Secret Investor for Paul Nichols is now 8-1 for the Hunter's Chase. This horse was a very good horse back in the day. Won a Grade 2, has got some good form in back in the day. Won by 13 lengths. Is he a Cheltenham Festival horse now, do you think?
He's probably the main British challenger, I would think. He's won a Diamond Chase, he's rated 165 back in the day. He's still rated in the mid to high 150s. So yeah, he's definitely retaining quite a lot of his ability. He's been brought along slowly. Overall, the thing about him is that he's shaped for a long time that he doesn't really go a yard over 3 miles. They can go quick, the Gold Cup, and he hasn't really been to Cheltenham either. One time he tried over 3 miles, I think he didn't really stay shaped like that. The older they get, sometimes they can stay a little bit further, but he has been campaigned, solely around 3 miles, and that's it really, or his whole career. So it'll be hard to just bounce out and make all in a hunter's chase like that with the Christie horse, and Billaway might outstay him and things like that. So he is class, but I fear he might be outstayed up the hill.
Yeah, I think he's got a class angle, but I think he might be. Yeah, I think his staying could be the issue with him. Saturday at Ascot, we'll start with Oscar Elite, a horse that's baffled me for a long, long time, and Saturday was another example. He's now 10th for the Ultima. He beat Bold Endeavour, who I think a lot of people fancied. He was backed off the boards, actually. Where are we with this horse? Is this horse, because he ran really well last year in the Ultima, but he's shown nothing since until Saturday.
Yeah, it sometimes happens with some of these handicappers, and particularly the Tizard Yardie. They're so in and out these days that sometimes they just pop up, and sometimes they don't. This race rather fell in his lap though, because the favourite didn't stay. That was only doubt about him. He did have upwards of £8, and he was racing off levels, and he didn't really get home. And the third was coming off a massive long break, and obviously needed it and checked out quite tamely. So, but it's a good confidence booster for him. He's got good form around Cheltenham. He was third in the Ultima last year. The mark is within his compass, I would say. He's just not reliable enough to back it 10-1, I don't think, for an Ultima. Yeah, if you're on fancy prices, fair play, because he is an each way player, but in a bigger field, in an open race, he does tend to find ways to get beat. And I just think that'll be the same here. I can see him placing again. I can see him being second, third, or fourth again, but I don't see him winning.
Let's move into the Ascot Chase, which was won very impressively by Shishkin. Again, it was such a good training performance. Just looked back to himself. I texted you after it and I said, why would he not go back champion Chase? But the more you watch the race, you think he showed terrific stamina. It was a brilliant performance. The one thing I've seen that I want to get your thoughts on is, did the race fall apart a wee bit?
Well, I mean, the other two didn't jump as well as him, the market leaders wise. And Pick Dory couldn't get to the front. He couldn't dominate from the start. So I right was kind of up there. But they just went that yard slower, that 2.5 mile pace, and 2 mile pace, and Shishkin looked the winner. He looked the winner after a mile. At least, he was comfortable. He was a bit buzzy in the paddock. There was a bit more life to him, and the market was fairly strong on him all week. For a horse like that, when there's big kind of physical doubts over him, you would know by the market if there was a drift in that race that he was going. The fact that his price continued to hold up.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a shocking day, and just before the off, I looked at Shishkin in the paddock and I just knew he's going to absolutely hose up, isn't he? And he did by 16 lengths. Pick Dory, okay, from the front, he'll have a chance of a mailing, but he's probably a grade 2 horse. And Fakir Duderie again shaped as if he needed 3 miles, and he's got a lot of miles on the clock now, and it's not your average 8-year-old, and it might just be catching up on him. So did it fall apart? Maybe a bit, but it was still at least an early 170s performance, and replicate that in the Ryan Early, he's going to win that, and probably win that fairly comfortably. But
As 11 to 10 fair.
He has to be odds against in my book because of what's happened before. I mean, he was short odds on Champion Chase and bombed out. That's the only thing that's going to beat him here. It's not going to be another horse. It's going to be boom or bust. If he's well within himself, then he'll win. If he's not, then he'll lose. So therefore, it's a 50-50 and it's an even money shot.
Mm-hmm.
So evens 11 to 10 seems, reasonable enough. It's just it is kind of gut instinct, like it was. I mean, I would never have had them at all. I mean, only 2 minutes from the off, I thought, well, I can see what's going to happen here. Everything just kind of conspires in one way against you or for you, and it went in Shishkin's favour. Yeah, I don't think that race would have taken a great deal out of him either. I think he'll be fine over that, and if the reports are as positive as coming into it from the Henderson camp into the Ryan Air, then you'd probably be inclined to row in again at evens, because the opposition isn't too great.
Is he on any multiples?
Yeah, I think he'd been in the shortlist for multiples. I haven't had a kind of any kind of like fancy multiple bet of pairing all these kind of short price favourites together, but he would be. But again, it's a boom and bust profile of him that is a slight doubt here. But on the form book, he would have to be.
Yeah, it was terrific. It was brilliant to see. Again, there's no better trainer than Nicky Henderson at getting these horses back. Brilliant performance. Let's move into Haydock. Start with a horse for the Moors, Bo Zenith. 11-1 in places for the Boodles is about 16 for the Triumph as well. He's now rated 133. This horse is, you can tell there's a talent there. It's just difficult what conditions he really likes. What do you think of him, Jink? It was a good performance in a decent race. Is he a Boodles or a Triumph player?
He's not a Triumph player at all. He could be a Boodles chance. He's probably won that and wanted a bit softer ground, to be honest. He was kind of momentarily rusted along. He has an out-and-out stayer. He's a kind of like juvenile kind of character, but he did have this high profile from France coming in. Didn't really show it the first time round. That was a big step up. Affadil bombed out from Musselburgh. 13 days, quick turnaround. That proved a bit too much. That might be an angle later on when these horses are trying to get the third and fourth runs in. I argue trying to just rush him a little bit too much, and they would turn up for Cheltenham in that great form. But just want to watch there. Yeah, he'd have a chance in each wee chance in the Boodles, I think. But I do think Willie Mullins has this juvenile division pretty well covered.
Yeah, you think he's be well covered in both races. I would agree with that. We'll move into the Grade 2 Rendlesham, which was won by Nicky Alexander and Wakul. Very good for Nicky Alexander to get a result like that. There are 16-1 in places for the Pertemps. He has qualified. Is he a Cheltenham player?
He's not going to go, according to connections, because this was a really nice wee Grade 2 mapped out win, because they knew the window before Cheltenham and before the Spring Festival. So it was just a really good bit of placing to get a Grade 2 victory. And that's what we'll have to do in the future, like go for these kind of wee graded races. I can see him popping up in the air somewhere. There's a good stairs kind of 3 mile there, I think, for the heating. So I think he kind of knows that he's probably handicapped kind of out of things anyway. Pertemps is probably a bit of a leap, and they know that, and they'll rather kind of go around and try and pick up these wee soft graded races, because that's his niche, and he's well targeted to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the Grand National Trial. I don't think there was many festival clues on here, but we did. I kind of want to get your thoughts in what you think for a potential Grand National. Was won by Quick Wave. What was your takeaways from that race?
Look, Cloudy Glen ran a blinder from the front, and it'd be interesting if they risk dropping him in a Grand National or something like that. But he does kind of do well from the front, and it's a race that now suits front runners. So as a total outsider, I think he's potential interesting if fully tuned up for it. I don't think the winner is realistically in that race for the Grand National. Quick Wave, good performance. Snow Leopardess will go to Cheltenham on the back of a bit of a confidence booster there. We go in the cross country route. She'd want it a lot softer though, and it's very unlikely that they're going to get that. With the long range weather forecast, looks pretty dry, apart from one wee shower potentially Wednesday morning, but it's even a bit too early to be in weather watch yet. But Corrick Ramble's the one I keep coming back to. I think he's one for Arthur Mark too. I know the British have got no kind of. They could potentially only get like a quarter of the field running here for them if they'll stand their ground, but they might just need that, because I can see Corrick Ramble doing something incredibly similar to what One for Arthur did in a similar campaign. Capodanno interests me as well.
Yeah.
At 25s, he's 7 and he shaped pretty well there in the weekend, and a big stamina test is what he wants. It's just whether they don't go here and go to Punchestown instead for a Grade 1. But I think his mark is quite workable, because a lot of top Irish horses have been given top weight and they're quite exposed. Delta works, horses like that. I would need a serious performance to give north of a stone to Corrick Rambler, I would think.
Yeah, let's move into famous Claremont, who's now 7-1 for the Hunter's Chase. This horse did impress me, but it does look as if Aintree is the target for him.
It does, yeah. It was a good performance. Been bought with this in mind, of course. And this is a time where hunters chasers do tend to come out. The qualification process is a little bit more rigorous, so they have to kind of cram more runs into these kind of horses if they're not getting that much back class to qualify. Yeah, and I think they're definitely going to wait for entry by the looks of it, and he'll be a player there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I thought it was a really good performance. Wincanton, I like to move, absolutely bolted up in the Kingwell. 16-1 for the champion hurdle. Is he potentially an each-way player?
Yeah, he's playing for third, isn't he? Like everyone else, for behind Stateman and Constitution Hill. So realistically, looking, can he beat Vauban? It probably could. You'd imagine he actually let Cheltenham over 2 miles anyway. Nigel Twiston Davis can certainly ready a good 2 mile hurdler. The new one, for instance, the most recent one there. Yeah, he can hit the place frame. Obviously the juice of the price is gone. What else is going to turn up? Probably not a great deal.
It's not going to be a big race, is it? I think you're going to be about 6
yeah, I mean,
runners.
you'd be pretty surprised if there was more than 7 there, wouldn't you? So yeah, he's a complicated sort, and he's likable and reliable, but he doesn't have the class to win. Stranger things have happened, but he can run to a high level and maybe nab third or something.
Golden Park, we'll start with Phil Dor, beat Sharjah in the Grade 2 there. Again, this horse is hard to figure out. I think he does have entries over hurdles and fences. I don't know where he's going to go, but I think the big difference here was he beat Sharjah in soft ground.
He likes soft ground. The runner-up certainly doesn't. Yeah, Phil Dor, he's shaped up like he's obviously leading Triumph Hope for a long time. He's third. It's a nice confidence booster for him, because I think he was kind of just losing a little bit of heart over his fences, whether they revert back. He's hard to place because I think he's going to be way too high in the handicap now.
Yeah.
And at the age of 5, you don't really want to be lumping tons of weight on him in a big kind of handicap hurdle or really a chase. So might be selfish, but I would just fling him the Arkle and see what happens. Like the Irish Arkle. I mean, if he jumps a little bit better, he might be able to keep up a little bit more effectively, and that he might have had a confidence booster. The third, Dr. Bravo, is a huge eye catcher.
Yeah.
He whacked the second last, and he was probably still pitching in with a winner's chance. So even if you think he's getting weight from 2 horses that are pretty hard to assess, but that's a pretty decent performance. He'd been entitled to kind of go for a kind of novice hurdle, Grade 1, and run okay in one, maybe a Supreme, because he doesn't. Gordon Elliott's switching Irish Point to entry, so he doesn't really have a Supreme horse. So you could throw him in there, but Dark Raven beat him pretty convincingly, and that's a small boost to his form, because Dark Raven ran quite well, I thought, in Christmas. Third in the Grade 1. That was a big step up in grades, and he could step up from that as well. So in an Open Supreme, there are 2 that you could potentially look at a price that have got kind of beaten form, but it's underrated graded form, and it might actually stack up not too badly come the day.
Yeah, we'll move into Janadil, who was really good in his seasonal reappearance, beat Hot on Callure. Capadano was third. I thought Capadano ran a terrific race. But Janadil was now 8-1 for the Ryanair. I've loved this horse for a while. I think he's just a wee bit behind like a proper Grade 1 player. I think he's going to races like this he's tailor-made for. Where do you think he's at in terms of the Ryanair picture?
I think he's probably should be second favourite, I would think. I mean, the fact the race is not going to turn around. I mean, his Cheltenham records is a bit patchy. Yanada was second last year to Allaho. He could be second this year to Shishkin. He's getting a similar prep as well, which he kind of upheld his form. And when he raced at Leopardstown the year before, he ran okay, and he's won here. He looked pretty big in the paddock. He could improve. The thing is, did he run too well and he might bounce? Possibly, but I think he's pretty experienced enough to kind of not really do that. And I can see him picking up the pieces and being second or third. I think these mug HV accumulators. He might be worth kind of sticking in, because the rest are pretty uninspiring. Hot on Killure's finishing effort again was poor. That was disappointing. Capadano shaped very well in third. on a trip
They'll
that's
risk him in a
apparently
Gold Cup. Trying to put him in a Gold Cup.
No, it's too quick. No, they're gearing towards Aintree Punchestown for him. Yeah. It's too soon. I wouldn't throw him into that environment yet. But I quite liked him for the King George if he was fit enough. They were obviously these Mullins horses that'll just start out now. Brandy Love as well. Put that in the bracket. They have been behind the curve for a long time.
Yeah,
I wouldn't pitch Capodanno into a Gold Cup when particularly he's got two leading contenders in the favourite Galopin Des Champs and Statler as well. So I don't think they'll be first, and I think Aintree or Punchestown is going to be the main goal with him.
Yep, we'll move it. The bumper was won by Brighter Days Ahead. 14-1 now for the bumper. I thought this was probably one of the nicest bumper performances I've seen so far. It's just really, really nice to watch. I think this is a good horse for the future.
It is. Again, Aintree listed bumper from mares there.
Yep.
Would be a very good target for her. I would think. 4-year-olds at Cheltenham, 4-year-old mares at Cheltenham. There's been plenty in time that have shaped really well, getting all this weight, and they just don't handle the occasion. Have sister to Mighty Potter, so definitely a future in her, for sure. I think Gordon Elliott will be wise to just mind her really for this season. Maybe just keep her away from these kind of graded contests, and she could be in full bloom come next year.
Yep, let's move into Sunday in Punchestown. We saw another good bumper performance. Ballyburn, owned by Ronnie Bartlett. 7-1 for the bumper. A lot of people seem to think this could be a Willie Mullins shot in the dark because he was very vocal. If you saw his interview, I think it was from Racing TV, where he said he maybe has one or two to come out after, and this could be one of them. I think he's a big player for the future. Is this maybe a year too early?
There's one today as well at Thurles in the last that's been talked up slightly.
Yes.
And that's interesting. Yeah, this should be one for the future.
West End Victory, I think the name is. West
End Victory is about 25, so people might nibble away at that, but we'll see. It was a good performance. He obviously pulled really hard, all the way through, and then won it at the end. To keep running, that engine going is quite impressive. He's another one that you'd fling in there as an each way contender for sure. You know what, Patrick Mullins will ride. The favourite all of a sudden looks pretty short now because there's all these quite decent kind of each way contenders that are just piling up from the same stable against him. It's just you don't really associate that ownership with a bumper horse though. And he's probably going to be, anything he achieves in a sphere will be a bonus, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. So he has a chance. If you'd like to see maybe settle a bit better as well later on, but I think he's certainly a player. He's another one I wouldn't put anyone off.
You've obviously got Chapeau de Soleil. Where do you think they're just going to throw him in because there's no entries? We thought he was going to go for that Fernie Hollow bumper that was meant to be on Sunday. He's not entered. Where do you think he's at?
Well, now you've got all these kind of winners going in, so you're kind of the horse of your fortune in terms of luck because to get in, it's based on handicap or ratings, and he's going to rate the winners higher than the seconds, and that's a pretty low kind of bar. So if Willie Mullins does enter all these, and Chapeau de Soleil might miss the cut, and there's probably a decent chance that he will miss the cut. I was expecting him to run. So you'd be less confident, but he was part of a lucky 15. I've not had a big single on him at all. So I think you bide your time because I think the entries come out next week.
Yeah.
For the bump. So you'll kind of see what you're kind of getting to deal with there, and British representation looks pretty thin in the ground.
It does, yeah.
This year anyway. So if Willie Mullins might want to kind of pull certain horses out to get certain horses in, that might be the way he'll have to operate here because he seems to have quite a lot of the field at the moment.
Yep. Well, final horse we'll mention Wednesday in Punchestown was Queensbrook beat Brandy Love. Brandy Love was obviously given weight in her seasonal reappearance with new colours. This was a weird race for me. I know I think Brandy Love will come on for that. Will the festival come too soon? I don't know, but I think Brandy Love can take credit from that race.
Yeah, this horse rather divides Twitter into two, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Really strangely. She's one I've never really understood the hype for, to be honest. And Punchestown, you don't really get a great angle, I don't think, to kind of really see what's kind of developing. I think there's hope if you're on. I mean, they went out to tens, and then obviously that was a bit of an overreaction. They clipped her back into sevens. She's obvious potential. The height, yeah, she's won a Punchestown race where she jumping left, but it was the end of season form. Love Envoy was done by then. Really, it was a bit sketchy. Queensbrook was second in in the Mares Hurdle last year, and only beating a length. It looks a stronger renewal. She was getting £9. She probably did need the run, but these novices stepping up and include Love Envoy in this. This is a good division.
Yeah.
There is serial Grade 1 operators here in Honeysuckle, Epatone, Eccles and Rain, Marie's Rock. There are a lot of decent established males to take on, and I just do doubt whether she's ready for this, particularly with this disrupted preparation that she's had. I know she needed it, but there'll need to be a lot of work in the interim, even with jumping as well, just to kind of. I don't think there's much room in this Mares Hurdle to have quirks and get away with it, and she still does have some of that temperament in her. If anyone can, Willie Mullins can, but 3 weeks to go, I think it's tough to get there in peak form and genuinely competitive. Just not for me, but I can see why people are latching onto her, because she does have potential and she might show it on the day, but it wouldn't be for me. And the second's not out of the picture either. Queensbrook, and if you can actually back that up, given her effort last year, and she would have preferred maybe a bit softer ground, which again she might not get here. But yeah, and Willie Mullins is the pace horse in the race, and Echoes and Rain is a stayer, and she wears it well, and has probably this kind of more kind of unknown quantity in Brandy Love a little bit. So yeah, he's got 3 decent angles in, and that have all got different kind of chances in their own way.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think I thought the performance was good. I just think I was expecting her to smash up and become joint favourite and just that would be her tailoring towards Cheltenham. I just think it might be too soon for her. I would fancy her maybe at Punchestown. I know Punchestown, she's not the type of horse you would think, but I think she reminds me very much of York Hill. You don't know what version you're going to get, and I think at Cheltenham she's going to need to be real left. She's going to need to stay right inside and try and, because there's times she can really worry you anytime she jumps. At times there was a couple
worrying left, left going left hand, it should be fine, shouldn't it? But she'd run out of the paddock or something. But
yeah,
I just if it was a weak looking race, like if it was like last year and she was thrown in, then she'd definitely be worth kind of a pop maybe. But I think there's too many quirks, too many unknowns, and there's too much depth in this really for me to entertain having her on my mind for this. So yeah, if she hacks up and wins, then she has the talent to do that. But at those odds in a race of that nature, it wouldn't be for me.
Yeah, I think she's probably a fair price right now. And that is us for the recap. We'll move into what is coming up for the weekend. We will start on Saturday at Kempton. We have a few big races. We have the Adonis Juvenile Hurdle. Again, this is a race I don't particularly like, because I think it's always a hard race before Cheltenham. Scriptwriter leads it at 9-4. You've got Rare Middleton 4-1, Perseus Way, Nusret. There's a couple of newcomers in there, like Papuri for Nicky Henderson, and there's a couple more as well. Sarson's Risk for the Brookhouse and Robbie Dunn combination. What do you fancy here? I think this race is very different. You look at this race as potentially a big Grade 2. I don't look at this as a Cheltenham Festival club.
No, it's not. No, it's sometimes it deceptively is with big performances down the line, like Solo and Tritonic, and then you just get found out because it's a completely different test, a completely different track against completely different opposition. It's a good little race in its own right, though. I mean, Scriptwriter's probably rightfully favourite. Narrowly touched off at Cheltenham, and he is the one that's got a bit of Cheltenham form that you think, yeah, I can see him actually going there.
Very similar to Night Salute last year.
Yeah, and who won it, obviously, and favourites have a good record in this. They've won the last 5. So, yeah, I think I think he's definitely the one to beat. Rare Middleton's got obviously get talent. I did flag him up in debut. I'd expect him to improve from this. Paul Nicholls does have a decent record in this as well, so I think he's the main danger. I mean, I think Newsroot might go to Ireland, but he's better right-handed anyway, so and he's of respect, and the person's way he's kind of had this decent reputation himself. Whether this will be a bit sharp for him, I think that might kind of do him in a little bit. So yeah, I would lean towards scriptwriter because I think he's just proved a little bit more than Rare Middleton. But yeah. I think the favourite just about. It's a percentage call there.
I think Papuri was rated 85 on the flat. I'm keen to see how he runs, but I do fall into this thing of the newcomer in this race, and they always seem to run decent enough, but they never really kind of go. I think Scriptwriter will win this. I think Rare Middleton as well could be a potential talent, but I think Scriptwriter's it's tailor-made for him this race. We have the Pendle Novices Chase. Next after that, a Grade 2 over 2 mile 4. Boot Hill 6-4 favourite. That's all right. Giro 7-2. Solo 9-2. And Tweed Skirt 8-1. What do you think here?
I think Solo's a cracking bet in this.
Yeah.
This is his time of year. This is his track. I think to win this. Boot Hill's got to give away weight. That's all right. You'd be wanting to kind of win this for Cheltenham aspirations, but this is a quick turnaround. I'm kind of wondering why he's taking this in, to be honest. But maybe more experience, but it might be a handicap later down the line. Tweed Skirt's not a bad mare for Nicky Henderson's on the up. He might run well, so yeah, I'd be looking against the front two in the market here and looking at Solo and Tweed Skirt a little bit more.
Yeah, I think Solo as well. I'm not keen on Boot Hill at all in this race. I just don't see it giving away weight as well. I think I'm going to go with Solo here. Coral Trophy handicap chase over 3 miles. Anzam 9-2. Cap de Nord 5-1. Don't think he'll go. St Calvados is in there at 13-2. Our Power, Clondor Castle, Frodon. A lot of horses in here with big weights. What do you fancy?
I like Anzam around Kempton. Front runner. Nips around there. He'd probably have a very good chance. And I can see Killer Kane bouncing up to form in an each way price as well, potentially for the Tizard. So he could be the kind of one that pops up. Can I get a few better runs into some of their horses, like Oscar Elite, Elixir de Nuts have ran well recently. So I can see him going well. So they'd be my tentative 2 against the field.
Yep, I think Killer Kane as well could be a good each way bet. We've got the Dovecote Novices Hurdle over 2 miles. Hansard 15-8 for the Moors. Rubod at 5-2 for Paul Nicholls. You Can Tango 5-1. Imperial Bead 6-1. John Daniel's yard's actually in good form as well, but I think You Can Tango could be a good bet here at 5.
Snap, I agree. I'll forgive him last time. Forgiveness is a good trend recently. Given what happened to Shishkin, but yeah, You Can Tango. I think he's got decent form in the book, and I can expect him to bounce back here. The favourite, Hansard, need a lot of respect. Again, ground. Is it going to be a bit on the quick side for him? Potentially. And Ruba has got to shrug off a pretty bad run last time out. But this trip looked plenty sharp enough for him up at Newbury. So I don't see getting back to Kempton here, even though it's back in novice coming. I don't think that'll be a big help to him. So yeah, I'll go with You Can Tango as well.
Yeah, You Can Tango, 2 votes for that. We'll move into Newcastle. We have the Eider handicap chase. I'm not a big fan of handicap plots, but Christian Williams 3-1 Kitty's light off 132 to me just looks really, really a purpose play here.
Yeah, it happened at Doncaster, didn't it? With the other one, Captain Nord, didn't it? So it's a similar price, and it's a similar trend here. The only doubt is that she can kind of whack one.
Yeah.
And going here, and then there'll be a view to probably something like the Scottish Grand National again. I think that would
Midlands National as well could be another one.
You've planned for maybe take the Midlands one in before. Yeah, there's plenty of options, but Stamina is obviously definitely a strong suit. Barrington Bob would merit respect, I think, for the Hamiltons, because when they target races, they're normally quite successful. But one more Flory at 40-1 does catch your eye as well. Ian Williams' yard. I mean, I think that's just a bit of a big price because, again, another good kind of talent trainer. It does have a bit to find, but she does tend to come alive around the spring, and she has a decent stare, so she might be overpriced. And if you do get these kind of extra places that can pot around for these races, and she could nab one.
Mm-hmm. We've got a couple of interesting runners at Fairyhouse on Saturday as well. American Mike is entered in a handicap hurdle of 138 over 2.5. Is this a view to the Coral Cup or the Martin Pipe?
Either or. I mean, I would probably lean towards the Martin Pipe with the more kind of unexposed horses that you get. I would tend to run them there rather than the Coral Cup, but yeah, we'll enter them both. It certainly won't be over 2 miles. That's for sure. Yeah, I would mean Clyde. The new course is more stamina based as well, so I would say Martin Pipe, unless you really want a senior kind of jockey on him all the time, which means you might want Coral Cup. I mean, if you think the marks.
Who would ride him in the Martin Pipe, do you think?
They've got a young kind of £7. That boy that went up and rode the Boston Oscar.
Is it Rob James?
No, it's the other Kale somebody.
No.
Kale Quinn maybe, something like that. The name escapes me, but yeah. I think it would be him. It's also a good pointer. Do look for your best conditional jockey that you're thinking around and see what they're on come the day, because that'll be interesting, because it normally does go to high class conditional jockeys because they're obviously targeting it. But yeah, it's an interesting entry, isn't it? We didn't even mention the last day because the run was that deplorably bad. He went out like a light.
Yeah.
You just want to see him shape with encouragement. You just want to see him run through the line a bit better, I think. As long as the only thing I'd be wanting to see from him on Saturday would be just, run through the line, just finishing off his race better. That might be a bit more of an indicator than his actual result. We'll see what happens when, but it's still early stages of a recovery mission.
Yeah, I don't want to, I'm not going to big myself up here, but do you remember a week before Cheltenham last year, I texted you my treble that I always put on for the year ahead?
Oh, I'm trying to recall it now.
It was Constitution Hill at 10-1 for the champion hurdle. I think it was, I'll double check, 16-1 Jerry Calum for the Brown Advisory, and American Mike at 8-1 for the Ballymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking now, I've got a few American Mike Ballymore bets, and I'm thinking
a good trick.
Yeah, imagine just if he comes in here, if he bolts up in something like this, and they maybe just go Ballymore with him, and it falls apart, then be rolling in it for a wee while.
Yeah, all of a sudden be a player again.
Yeah,
and in Ballymore, you can't forget the back class of the horse as well.
Yeah.
He's obviously just had his issues this season. He had a very attritional kind of first race, and it's obviously taken a toll of him. And they're just trying to get him back desperately. It might emerge over the weekend that he's still the class act. We've seen horses bounce back recently.
Yeah, we certainly have.
The semblance of their form, but his jumping is just very ropey, isn't it? As well,
Yeah.
That has been a recurring theme. He's not a good hurdler at the moment, so he'd be looking for a lot of improvement in that front. Yeah,
we've got races like the Bobby Joe Chase as well at Fairyhouse on Saturday. Sunday, a couple of interesting races as well. The Newlands Chase, Shishkin Persoise entered in that over 2 miles. Hollow Games as well. I think Hollow Games could maybe be a Grand Annual player if they can get him kind of potentially. I think they'll obviously need to get him qualified, because I don't think he's ran 4 times over fences.
Well, Gordon Elliott Stabletoe was quite interesting with him, because they've had his win done, kept him fresh, and they're planning to run him in the Arkle, so they do think a great deal of him. I thought that he might be a Tunnels horse, but obviously they've got Mighty Plotter for that. They've got Jerry Cullen for Brown Advisory, so
he didn't shape as an Arkle horse last year.
He didn't, but this year when he's jumped well in his debut, he looked really, really good, and he did look quicker than to expect. And then there is this kind of obvious, you need to stay in these Arkles and Supremes and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, if the wind operation has done the trick, and he's back to form, then he's all of a sudden in the conversation at a massive price. But again, we'll see. But he was we didn't know his ceiling over hurdles, didn't we? And I don't think he has improved for fences, but whether it's drastically enough to be a player in an Arkle remains to be seen.
Yep. We'll move into our Ante Post selections for this week. we'll take a look at our Ante Post selections coming up on the screen just now. A couple of interesting things as well. Myself, Grand Daniel Hade de Zabot is not entered. He's only entered in the Arco by the looks of it. Couple of entries not there anymore as well for yourself. What do we think of our Ante Post books so far?
It's a bit flat, isn't it? I think mine's is, but there's still open kind of chances there. Not many are being drastically cut. I've not lost too many either, though. So it reflects the market. You know, there's not a lot of value, so there's not going to be a great deal of movement either way. And if they're still there, then they're still pretty much got a chance. I think mine generally is a bit kind of more spread wide and a bit flatter, but I think you've got more kind of dead certs, like chances. You usually get a bit more of a boom and bust profile to mine. Well, mine's kind of like a general kind of pretty meandering, steady eddy level book. So yeah, it could go either one or two ways, can't it? But I mean, a lot of them are still kind of floating about there with half chances.
Yeah. Do you mind if I go first this week? Because I think yours will probably be more exciting than mine.
Okay, go away.
Right.
Go.
I just want a winner. I just want a winner of a race, and I can't see past Vosselet at 74 in the Hunter's Chase. I know it's a short price, but we're all about winners on here. We want winners on the board. I don't think anything beats Vosselet in the Hunter's Chase. The more I've looked at race, well, there's a couple stood out, the likes of Secret Investor, Famous Claremont. They don't seem to me to be Cheltenham horses. I wouldn't trust Billaway as far as I could throw him. I think Christie's got the race well covered. I think Vosselet's the best horse in it. I think he's the right favourite. I know it's a short price. In the world we live in short prices, I just want a win on the board. I think Vosselet is very rock solid at 7-4, and that's my pick this week.
You mean the captain your team then?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I kind of wanted Brandy Love to be, because there was one a guy or Dumanil maybe as well, but I just think Vosselet's going to be hard to beat. I think he's got the perfect profile. I think he's the right age. I think he's the one out of three Christie horses guaranteed to go, which is positive as well. I did like Fair's Lock, but again, I just think Vosselet, and I still think 7-4 is quite a decent price actually.
Yeah, no, it's a perfectly valid favourite for sure. Yeah, I mean that would probably end up backing him on the day. So if it stays the status quo, because I think I'll find it very hard to back anything else apart from a Christie horse. Maybe one at a price just for the interest. But I couldn't knock that.
And I'm praying Barry O'Neill rides it. I imagine he will. If Barry O'Neill turns up, I think he's the man to be on.
He's probably going to ride the top Christie horses. Yeah, you'd think so. That's a solid, definitely a solid shout.
Yep. Who you got this week?
It's in the Kimure, 20-1, and it's a night in Lambourne. British horse trained by Ben Pauling. This horse is going there fresh, going to be ridden by Jack Andrews, who's a pretty decent amateur.
Yeah.
I know that all the rages for Stumptown and the Irish horses are beginning to kind of form a pecking order here at the head of the market for this. But that happened the same last year, and none of them hit the frame. They are not that well handicapped. Stumptown might now be a revelation a little bit. The price is gone. This guy's 4 times higher. He's already beaten a decent Irish yardstick in Punitive, who followed up in the Porterstown. He won that, which is normally a fairly decent pointer to what Gordon Elliott really has to offer in this race. He's only been nudged up a couple of pounds. He's gone through the ranks. He's won 4 of his 9 chases, ranging from 2.5 miles. The last 2 have been second and first over 3 mile one. Beat Punitive over course and distance as well at Cheltenham. He's been deliberately kept fresh for this. Ben Pauling won the Grand Annual with Global Citizen. He can get a winner here, and I think this is his only really realistic chat. I don't see Global Citizen doing the double again, but he might. But I don't really see much coming from that yard as well. So they're going to focus on this. It's been the plan for a while. And I think he's just been, because of this rush, the clamour for these kind of Irish horses at the head of the market again. He goes well on good grounds. He's a spring horse. He's he's an efficient jumper. He doesn't make many mistakes. He can slot him in midfield and come off the pace. And we know he can win races. So, and he's 9, but that's kind of the right age for a Kim Muir. And he's not he's not that heavily exposed. So I like his profile coming into this, and I think 20-1 is just a little bit big. So yeah, I'll be on him for the Kinmure.
Brilliant. Nah, good selection, I think, as well. Just when you look at his good ground. It's looking like it's going to. I think we are going to have a dry. Did you hear the story that apparently the cross country they can't water that, so it's going to be good ground?
Yeah, that's been the case for the whole year.
That's going to be weird, isn't it? That's going to be.
They'd obviously postponed to them beforehand, so yeah, it's going to be good. There is meant to be. There's a long range forecast. There's meant to be a bit of rain on Wednesday, but that's not really going to affect the Hunter's Chase course. With Galvin now running there, it seems, and he likes good ground, and Delta Work probably likes it softer. You do have this kind of Tiger Roll Delta Work dynamic a little bit of, and we had this with Eases landed Tiger Roll. It's like good ground versus bad ground, really, and the good ground horses tended to prevail when it's a good year, and when it's background, the background horse wins. You would have Galvin more of a better ground horse than Delta Work over time. So the big banker might not be that big a banker again. He's obviously favoured a clear duel, and it is a clear duel in ratings between them. But and you've got the total unknown of Galvin doing this for the first time. But Delta Work could come up here and pitch up and win off his start, and then Galvin could invisibly do the same. So yeah, it's made the cross country chase a little bit more interesting because we might have a little bit of a race there.
Who rides who? Who rides who? Do you think?
Well, I think Davy Russell will probably ride Galvin because he's got more of an association with that horse historically. And if Jack Kennedy was back, he'd definitely be back in Delta Work in a heartbeat. So I think that's how they do it. And if it's not, then whoever rode Delta Work the last day will probably just keep the ride. I think
it was Rachel Blackmore that rode Delta Work last day. Was it?
I thought it was Rob James. I think
could be. I thought it was Rachel, but I thought I saw Rachel Blackmore on him. We might be wrong, but again, it's very interesting. What do we think? Look, final question before we wrap up. I know that we kind of do this every year. Do you think that obviously last year the washout that was Wednesday, the watering kind of criticism that they came under, if they don't get rain, they're going to have to water. There's going to be no debate about it. What do we think here? Because I don't think they will want a day like last year, like Tuesday last year, where Constitution Hill absolutely smashed up in the kind of pretty good ground. Actually, again, do you think they'll water before, or how do you think it'll work?
They've already been watering. They've been watering as early as last week to maintain just good to soft, and that's what they target, isn't it? So I mean, your long range forecast you can get within 28, 30 days of before, so they already see what's coming and shaping up, and they're watering already to kind of get that good to soft start. So it'll be good by the end of each day. Really, it might dry out a bit quicker than normally it does, but yeah, that seems to be the general plan. So the only plus we can have a pretty settled forecast is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
It really should be just good to soft that dries out towards good by halfway point, by tail end of the champion hurdle, and then it might be a bit quick towards the end. So and then it's just repeat for the rest of the week. So I think they're always totally unpredictable and it can change, but at the moment I think it's pretty predictable what they're going to do.
Yeah, we have 2 episodes left before Cheltenham starts. We're going to have one next Friday and next Friday as well. We will also have a special Cheltenham preview show. We're going to spread it out. We're going to cover all the Grade 1s. We're going to cover the big kind of events each day. We're going to do it all separately. It's getting closer, Calum. It's going to be quite exciting from here on in.
Yeah, it's definitely getting closer, and the excitement is certainly building. So yeah, it's all systems go.
All systems go. Thank you very much, Calum. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks again.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Please subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. Very close to hitting the 1,000 subscriber marks on the channel, so please subscribe. And as always, follow us on social media as we get closer to the Cheltenham Festival. Thanks very much, folks. We'll see you soon.